Join us live each week on YouTube and see past episodes at Master Trader Live. And now your show hosts, Greg Capra and Dan Gibby.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another session of Master Trader Live. Here we are again, Wednesday, as we are each Wednesday at 12 o'clock. Thanks for being here. Today, we're going to discuss trading cannabis stocks, which came to life in a big way for a while, seemed to have gone dead. And there's some activity recently, but we'll go through the list of them, see where they're at, see what might be moving, look at a few patterns as to how we can take advantage of them when they do come back to life, similar to Bitcoin all of a sudden exploded yesterday, came back to life. So things like Bitcoin, pot stocks, whatever's the rage in the moment, where everybody gets excited, everybody runs into them, they run them up, and then they think they're going to the moon. Sometimes they do. And then once they reach outer space, they tend to fall back to Earth rather hard, and some of them have. And then they begin to rebuild. And we find out, in the case of cannabis stocks, which ones will survive versus just the hype. Like some stocks back at the time, we're into cannabis, we're into Bitcoin, and they have nothing to do with it, and they crash after a short little blip. But part of our focus here is to teach you how to read the tea leaves of that type of price action so that you can avoid getting caught in such a situation. So I'm joined by my partner, friend Dan Gibby, creates these slides for us each week, and we go through them. And hey, Dan, nice shirt. We don't match this week. That's a good thing.
I had to pick one. I didn't think you would too.
Yeah, that's good. I like it.
Thanks. Excellent introduction. As always, as you were talking, that was on my head to say, a paraphrase version of that. Whatever the hype is at the time, they're going to bring them to outer space because everybody wants in on the newest craze. So, cannabis was the new Bitcoin. And we've been trading them actively. I watch a couple of them here every single day, and we'll show you some of those recent stocks. And then when things get parabolic, I use the analogy, when the jet fuel runs out, then just from a lack of buyers, and then obviously short sellers also, increases the supply and it brings it back to earth. And then I like your description, the rebuilding process, the reality of let technical analysis set them up to see which ones are real and which ones are not.
Yeah. And Trevor, what Dan said about, jet fuel is spot on, because look, we'll show you some charts where these things just took off incredibly, where they look, okay, that's extended. It should come back to earth, and it doubled. So you can't get in front of these things when they're that way. And a lot of traders get run over and destroyed, shorting what they think has gone too far. So when they do top out, it does become pretty obvious. And then they fall back to earth, as Dan said. So, yeah, you have to be able to recognize these patterns. And when things come into the focus of the majorities like this as something new to the markets and could be revolutionary, which, hey, cannabis we say is. I mean, all the things that they say about medical wonders that it is, but the majorities are just interested in its recreational abilities. So,
and you're not
legal, not particularly. So to each their own. But the government's finding a way to increase their coffers with tax dollars, and I suspect they'll find ways to waste it very thoroughly and still increase our taxes on other things.
But it's a real industry. It's tradable. The valuations obviously have gotten out of whack through greed and excitement. Canada definitely has the lead in terms of tradable stocks. There's a couple of them that we can trade also. We're going to give you our entire universe of liquid tradable marijuana stocks here. We have a slide coming up, and then after the slides, as always, we're going to go look at that entire list. And as Greg said, we're going to find the ones that look like they're setting up the greatest trading opportunity in stocks and options, because that's where our interest is, making money on compelling patterns. But I thought this was a good picture just to also say, to visually say, look, I think this is real. You can see the green states there. It's legalized for recreational and medical. Look at all those blue ones. It's legalized for medical. I think, as Greg said, both in terms of the public demand and the taxes and politics, you have always got money in politics and governmental decisions, that this map is going to expand. So I think we're going to see a lot more publicly traded companies in the US start to surface.
So Dan, the gray areas, they still lock you up for marijuana?
Well, whether they would lock you up or not is a police and prosecution, determination, but it still would be violating the state laws, yes, and federal laws. Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know. That's a good slide.
Yeah. What we're going to show you today is, these are all just various pictures of bullish setups. The master trader objective approach to trading anything that moves is finding a compelling pattern, multiple time frames, time it with the sector. Is it relative strength, relative weakness? Now, marijuana, in our typical checklist, we want to time things with what the broader markets are doing and market internals. When you have a hot sector like this, and it still is hot, it's going to be more volatile, and often it doesn't care what the broader markets are doing. So we will make an exception and trade these long or short, regardless of what the broader market's doing. We have a saying of, it can be an individual stock or a sector that's trading, quote unquote, on its own page. It doesn't care what the rest of the market's doing. So back to these. Greg, do you want to say a few words on?
Yeah, these are, foundational type of patterns that we look at. And, it's just to understand that not every setup works, and some of them are not supposed to work. So when they don't work, they tell us that things are moving in the direction that they're supposed to. So, what we call a red bar ignored, which looking at this as it was moving up and you start to get a reversal, that reversal isn't supposed to go to the downside very much, because the way we're looking at this is if it would be in an uptrend, and maybe it prices ran up a little bit. They look like they're going to pull back. And if there's strong demand there, they're not going to pull back very much. Kind of similar to what the broader markets are doing. Markets are doing right now, where they're not pulling back, and there's this strong demand, and the markets just keep going up. And eventually, not that the broader markets will do that, but trends to their own degrees all end through some acceleration or long-term consolidation that breaks down. But many times they just accelerate higher, and that's what many of these pot stocks did. They accelerated higher to the moon on Dan's jet fuel, and when the fuel ran out, they come crashing down. But part of this slide is to say, look, there are all these different patterns you could focus on, but let's make it simple and understand that the messages are very similar, if not the same. So as we look at different patterns, we use what we call bar by bar analysis, and however that pattern evolves, we'll know what to do. It's like, okay, today it's this picture, and tomorrow maybe it's the other picture, but I understand what they're communicating to me, and why we've coined this also the term candle language. When you understand the different languages of the different candles, and then, okay, today's a different dialect, and I know what that means. Okay, that's a buy, that's a sell. Let's, trend, is it at support and resistance? It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's Apple Computer, whether it's marijuana stocks, whether it's crude oil, we approach everything the same way.
Right, and just to emphasize that we're looking for these compelling pictures on multiple time frames to enter the position on any instrument that can be charted and traded that's liquid. And then, as Greg's saying, is we know bar by bar how to interpret that information to manage the trade objectively. And Greg, this morning in the green trading room, I don't know if you heard me talking to LaDon, he had a bullish position on Amazon and he was getting nervous. And I said, let's slow down, LaDon, and let's go through a bar by bar exercise. And we have just calmly concluded that there was absolutely nothing wrong with the bullish picture on the daily. And maybe we can look at it later.
You know, that's one of the tools that Dan and I use, but our educational focus, because look, we're all human, of course, and we're susceptible to emotions and what's going on between our heads. So the method is based on using tools to force us to focus on reality. So is there really a problem, or are we just afraid that, hey, maybe this trade's going to be another loser, or I've got a gain here and I'm afraid that I'm going to give up the gain, so I'm willing to end the trade. So we have different tools that say, hey, is what I'm thinking based on reality, or is it just based on some fabrication that's going on between my ears? Bar by bar analysis is just one of them.
In the seasoning and objective approach to bar by bar analysis is what gives you that confidence to next time say, oh, man, Amazon's fine. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. And just, a little history about this was how I came up with that was because of my own fears, greeds, projections of what the future might be and fear of that. And I used the term in the chat room in some seminars, like I felt like I was on a white knuckle ride. Right? What is a white knuckle ride? Well, you get in your car. We did this when we were teenagers. You put the pedal to the floor, and when you get to about 120 or so, you're grabbing so tight because you're scared to death. And sometimes trading can feel that way. So that could be through lack of money management. It could be through a lack of knowing what you're doing. But with the tools that we have, bar by bar analysis, one being, hey, is there really something here where I should sell, get out, take profits, or just stick with it?
Right. And Greg, when I was trading with you 20 years ago in New York, you actually gave me some examples of different types of bar by bar analysis in downtown Manhattan.
I don't remember 20 years. I remember sitting there, Dan, with you 20 years ago. But
I was kidding about the saloon. One bar down, two bar down.
Yeah, there was a lot of them over there. You were an expert of how to get there for sure.
Right.
That one right downstairs was pretty good.
Yeah. So this weekly chart of Tilray, we were trading it, and this is a picture of the acceleration. I should have put a picture of a rocket ship up here. But you might think if you were just scanning on a weekly chart that this was a bad tick, because you're like, that just doesn't look right, that you can have a tail, a $140 tail, but look at the daily to the right. That was very real. And we were trading it. I remember the stock closed at roughly 150. It gapped up $120, and it had a $150 range in one day. And the stock's entire life went from whatever IPO price to 150. So that's a sign of incredible volatility. Of course, the bulls and bears are whacking at each other, but after an extended move, we are totally looking for short setups, which we did. We were shorting. We'll talk a little bit today about both trading stocks and options around these patterns. But when the volatility on these things is so high like that because of greed and just volatility of itself, we are getting tremendous premium for selling out of the money call spreads once we get a bearish turn. And then the reverse is true. When we get sell-offs, little mini panics in these stocks, the volatility goes up and we sell put spreads around them. If we get a beautiful swing setup, then we will, and I'll show you some of those, then we'll just trade the stock, long or short.
Yeah. I put an arrow next to that bar, Dan. It's like when that gapped up that day, when it was at around, I guess, eyeballing that close to 200. That looked like it was the top.
No. The daily chart here, you're looking at the weekly. It was 1 1/4.
Yeah. This looked like it was extended at the time.
Correct. Right.
And then it just did the incredible, which is a pretty incredible move, and of course, but this is what can happen. And
you know what, Greg? Now that you're pointing that out, in the green trading room, which is our live trading room, of course, where we give education, stock ideas, answering questions, etc., every day. On that gap down the next day, we were totally looking for bear call credit spreads. But as everybody knows, we start with the daily, and step 2 is, among our checklist, is wait for a compelling bearish intraday setup. And you see the real body of that. It gapped down and didn't go very far and went up. We never got a bearish setup to enter that call spread, and luckily so, as you can see.
I bet you these are huge ranges. It just doesn't look so big.
It's scrunched.
The run. Yeah.
Exactly right. All right. This was recent also. We had a gap breakdown failure, 100% retracement, and we issued bullish trades on this, bullish ETFs. We had a bull call debit spread as a directional trade, and also we're selling out of the money put spreads. The stock subsequently went up, and we had nice gains in all our positions. And when we look at MJ, which is the sector ETF on the real charts, you'll see that the breakout failed. But this was a beautiful swing setup, just a beautiful breakout after, this is kind of a reverse head and shoulders. You see the left shoulder here, breakdown, 100% retracement, sideways for 3 days. Yeah. That's what we call a no-brainer bullish trade.
Well, that was ideal. I mean, just the fact that it went sideways like that at resistance, even had a little dip in between there to try and go down and then up.
Yep.
Yeah, all look good.
This, I just grabbed a screenshot to show when MJ was trading a day or two ago at 36.65. It doesn't matter about the pattern. All I want to show you here is that when we sell options on compelling patterns, again, part of our option selling checklist that we teach, of course, is we want good premium for the days to expiration for the compellingness of the pattern. So let's take a look at with the stock trading at 36.65, the out of the money put is the $36 put right here. And it's $1.10 by $1.25 is very juicy, we call it. That if you just did the math, $1, let's say we get filled $1.15, which would be really easy. You divide $1.15 by the $36 strike, and that's like 300%. And we have all these rules again that I teach in our seminars about what is acceptable juice, what is not for the risk. But trust me, 300% is very juicy for an out-of-the-money short-term put. And the same on the call side.
Dan, a little side question related to options there. What does this would mean? I see you have delta in there. What would it mean for it to be delta neutral?
It means that your net position, if you were to add the positive deltas with the negative deltas, then it should be roughly 0, which means if it continues to go sideways, you have no directional risk. But as soon as the stock moves up or down, the delta is going to change. So think of an Iron Condor, if you will, which is we're selling an out of the money put spread. And let's say that has a net delta of 0.25. And then we have an out of the money call spread. Well, if we're short, it's negative of a negative, but ignore that. And then if we have a positive 0.25 delta on the call side, then those net out to zero. So that's what's referred to as delta neutral. You're trying to take away the directional risk. And, you know, we don't trade that way because everything we do is based on a bias on the chart. We don't want to be delta neutral because that means you don't have a good opinion on the underlying. If I have a bullish pattern, so let's just go back to this. On this bullish breakout, I only want a delta that has a bullish delta. So I only want to be selling a put spread on this pattern. To be delta neutral means I'm also putting on a bearish pattern, which I don't want. So I hope, you know, everybody's following that discussion. Because of our expertise in charts, we don't trade delta neutral. That's more for the folks who, yes, it's a strategy. I would say more for automated traders, because as the stock's moving, you have to constantly adjust the button, so to speak, of your portfolio to remain delta neutral. So I know that's a little...
Sounds like brain damage, Dan.
It is. It can be profitable, but it's not, if you don't look at charts, but our approach is superior, having a bias, placing the right trade around it.
Yeah, sounds a lot easier to use the chart.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, just also wanted to point out the open interest here. Thousands of contracts, and that's what's keeping it. It's showing that there's a lot of interest in trading these, which keeps the spreads tight, which is also keeping the premiums high because there's a demand for these calls and puts. So we do love selling trading options around these marijuana patterns. This actually was just, I just want to show our followers here that we have three various advisory letters. We have the ETF investment trader, which is just trades ETFs for longer gains. We put this trade in there, just buy the ETF, gave the reasons. It was in our swing and options trader, both as a put spread and a mildly bullish debit spread. And we update our subscribers through Telegram. We always give the reasons for the trade and a stop loss and manage in between. We walk the talk. This is an interesting slide just to show you that there's two ETFs and they behave very differently. Our subscribers can't answer, but I'll just for your own little self quiz, ask yourself why. Why are these so different?
Well,
very simple.
And I looked up the one on the right because I wasn't familiar with it.
Yeah.
And it's a real estate REIT. So
exactly. It's a marijuana real estate REIT that's moving with the sector. Correct.
So what do? They rent facilities to grow marijuana?
Exactly right. It's so, you have apartment REITs, you have commercial office REITs, and this is a specialty REIT on these companies that are specializing, and it could be a sale leaseback, it could be whatever, you got to look under the hood of what the REIT does, but the shareholders like it, whatever they're doing. Trevor says you got to be joking about what, Trevor? And everyone, just please put your drop down to all panelists and attendees so everyone can.
I imagine he means that what they do.
I don't know how to answer that. There's no joke. Whatever they're doing it very well. So Greg, why don't you can see how sloppy MJ was, but why don't feel free to point out some bullish entries, bullish or bearish on either one of these, and what type of trade that you would be confident. Starting with MJ on the weekly, I see a couple of bear call credit spreads and bull put credit spread setups on the weekly chart.
Oh, that.
Yeah. Absolutely. We would be selling puts there.
Bar, and what I like about it, I would have never expected it to do what it did, but what I like about it is the fact that it broke down under the lows and then sprung right back up again. So
Yep.
that communicates to me that it's got a pretty good bottom in place there. And then, as you know, Dan, we always going to say it's got to trade above some little resistance area there to give the confirmation. And that would have been like, oh, wow. I guess that would have been one of those situations like in one day you would have had 80% of your profit instantly on
Right.
that spread.
And then go further to the right, look at the two tails. That was a beautiful time to maybe sell a $43 or $44 call spread.
Yeah.
You got, yeah, and then go down to the next low. It looks like last December. That was a climactic buy setup with a big deep green bar. That was a put spread candidate.
You know, that's a setup, honestly, for myself. I shy away from them.
Short term.
It's just something that I just, not so confident about, but I see them work that way. It's more about me than,
Well,
I want to press the button on them.
Right. And here's why I like it. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 red bars, a gap down, a nice move up. And I guarantee you that those two bars right there on the daily chart, we had a beautiful higher low that we would sell a short-term put spread with a very manageable stop. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So look at all these areas. This is, we say keep it simple, stupid. We have an uptrend, higher highs, higher lows. We're looking for pictures of reversals on support. Look how the 20 MA is in agreement with the support areas. And that was a beautiful pattern. I regret missing it.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't even looking at this because I wasn't even aware of it.
Right. I read about it in Barron's is how I found it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
it probably pays a dividend.
That's a good point. If it's a REIT, absolutely. That's, in fact, by law, to set up a taxable REIT, you have to pay out X percent. I think it's 5 or 10%, whatever it is. But yeah, good point. All right, where do we have tradable opportunities here? ACB, you see the one that I marked. There's a number of others that Greg can point out if he wants in terms of put spreads. But this was a no-brainer gap breakout. We bought it. It was just a swing trade.
And I like pullback patterns, retest pattern.
Yep.
This one here.
The put spread I would have done under the base.
So let's just back up without making anyone confused. Is that we have a concept we spoke about before, bar by bar analysis. So you look at something bar by bar and you put together the messages. So clearly this was up, it had a deep pullback and it was consolidating. And so this whole picture here, if you put it all together, and then with this little bottoming tail bar right there, and I don't know if a put spread was even available on a $6 stock, but let's just imagine it was a $69 stock.
Right.
And then we could sell a put spread down below this level that would expire in a relatively short amount of time. The shorter, the better.
Right. That's
how you get your income.
Right. And so we actually bought the gap breakout, and then you see the little 1, 2, 3. We added on it the 1, 2, 3 trigger.
Right. Yeah. So mark that off. That's right there. 1 to the inside bar, and then the third is your trigger.
It was in our swing advisory letter. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
This one, Tilray here, remember, $300 at the high. This one, we shorted the breakdown. It was a nice 2 to 3 day, nice $5, $6 gain we got out of that. And that would also be a candidate of selling over the high of this red bar, selling an out of the money bear call credit spread. And because the Tilray, when we go through the real charts, you'll see it's definitely been lagging a lot of the others. And if the sector does turn bearish, this is going to be one of our go-tos because the weekly chart to me, I've been saying to our subscribers, it looks like it's heading to 45, 50 bucks, but we'll look at it together. Kron, actually you found this one, Greg, and gave it at, I think you got it from your TC 2000, bear gap scanning.
Yep.
You mentioned it. I said no brainer and sent out an alert to our subscribers.
Yeah, gapped under a green bar. And
after a breakdown.
Yeah, so it had a topping pattern. It was going sideways. It broke down here and it tried to go up and it couldn't. And then when it gapped down under the green bar, new longs were caught, and it's like, it's gotta go down.
Right. All right, what about all this mess?
That's definitely a bear call spread.
Without a doubt. Without
you've got all of these attempts to go up, and it's like,
exactly.
There's an expression, put a fork in it, it's done.
and that's what we look for. Right. Yesterday, many of we did a webinar on incorporating chart analysis with option trading. And, we think you're just driving a car blindfolded without it. But you see how Greg's eye just quickly, as soon as I put on slide 12 here, boom, bear call credit spread candidate. And I just smiled and said, absolutely. It just jumps out at you that using the chart messages that we want to sell an out of the money call spread and get paid because we don't think it's going back above those tails anytime soon.
And someone not using a chart, that maybe they want to be neutral, and they might say, well, let me put on, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, maybe an Iron Condor and play both sides of it, and not realizing that this is a breakdown. And now all of a sudden this is in their face as this thing's going down. They have no idea why.
Right. Yeah, we do at Master Trader Iron Condors in two situations. One is, and we had a recent, a week or two ago, or was it last week's MT Live, Greg, on that exact subject. It was trading range-bound patterns, both trading stock on the reversals and selling call and put spreads. If it's a wide trading range with very identifiable support and resistance, we will start off with an Iron Condor, but I'd say that's less than 5% of the time. 95% of the time, we start off with a bias. And as an adjustment strategy, when it starts, acting more questionable, we leg into an Iron Condor to improve our cost basis. Absolutely. But we still manage both sides accordingly.
Yeah. So here's a good question, Dan, and to explain something in a very educational way that the majorities will never tell you, because they try to make things sound easy or simple. So, okay, this is so easy, you could do it, but there's no real explanation or understanding. David says, do you put a lot of weight on the break below moving averages? Well, it can be. So in this situation, it was because, let's just remove this. These were converging and this was consolidating versus a situation where something maybe had been pulling back for several days and broke below the 20 MA. It's already been dropping for multiple days. So is it very meaningful that it broke below here? Not as much as here, where it's a breakdown below price. Everything's about price more so than something subjective like a moving average. And then does it have room to break further? So just focusing on the moving average is not enough.
Right. And David asked a question, do we put weight on it breaking above or below moving averages? The answer is no. Moving averages are just a guide. If they don't correspond with actual support and resistance, then they're meaningless. So you could take these moving averages off and we would come to the identical conclusion with our trade analysis here. Cornell is tight just to the panelist. Can options be used for day trading, like equities day trading? The answer is absolutely yes, provided they are very liquid. So on
And
the
you better know what you're doing as an intraday chart reader.
Right, of course, right. That was an assumption, sure, that you know what the patterns you're trading. But I would say there's probably, we have a list of 130 liquid stocks and ETFs that we post on our website for members. But I would say for day trading, I would narrow that to about the top 30. So you obviously have spiders, Qs, you know, the thick ones. Apple is very liquid. Facebook is very liquid. Microsoft, Intel, Cisco. There's many liquid. So just make sure they have like a 2-cent spread, and then you're 1 to 3, and you're good to go. Here's our list. You can take a screenshot right now if you want it, and we're gonna the list evolves, of course. Interest. The chart might get interesting, it might get dead, volume might fall off, volume might pick up, we got new companies, combinations, et cetera, et cetera. Just make sure it's liquid and has a nice tradable pattern, not that is just looks like junk. But we're going to now go through this entire list together, and let's see which ones look the best. This is Greg's phenomenal swing trading course. Everything we do, as you know, starts with an analysis of the charts on multiple time frames. We have a saying: no pattern, no trade. End of story. This will give you those tools to objectively know how to interpret price action and patterns on anything you trade. It's a phenomenal course. Check it out at mastertrader.com/swing trading. I love trading options, both directional and income. Directional means I want a big target, so I might buy a call or put, debit spread, calendar, etc. This course, though, specializes in selling options around these patterns that we've been showing you, and we'll be talking about more here live. And the gold one is an incredible detailed 12-module course. The testimonials we get from this are just amazing. Go to mastertrader.com/spread trader. And then platinum we threw in at a highly discounted price, 3 months of our green trading room and a weekly options trader. So you can see the trades that are coming out of the education from the credit spread courses. And finally, we have a free 3-day trial to our green trading room. So you will see Greg and me, as you will right now in a moment, in real life. We aren't just here talking about pretty PowerPoint slides that we make. You'll see us in real action, giving trades, giving market analysis. Go to mastertrader.com/green trial. Now, Greg will pull up his platform, and let's check out pot stocks.
You sure they're hot? Yeah.
Pot, absolutely.
Oh, pot stocks. Is that hot stocks?
Well, pot is hot, particularly when you light it up.
Well,
But
some of these have been smoked and, and left smoldering.
Right, and we want to know if we can make money that they're getting smoked, whether on the long or short side, or if we haven't, if they're going into the graveyard.
Right. So I got these sorted alphabetically, and if you want to go through them in any other format.
No, it doesn't matter at all. Well, start with MJ, just the sector.
Yeah. So you get the diversification of those. And Dan, did you ever get a list exactly which ones? Because I don't think all of these are in MJ.
No. It has nothing to do with what's in the ETF. I think I did at one time.
Specific stocks in the ETF.
Well, because there's a lot of them that are in the ETF that trade in Canada that we don't have access to trade unless you have a Canadian brokerage account.
I see. Yeah, so I mean, there it is, and it's been consolidating for a while. And just looking at this here, I'm kind of wondering, it's reaching an inflection point here. We got a little head and shoulders. And look how the 20 and the 50 are coming together. This thing's getting ready to go. And head and shoulders tops don't mean that it has to go down. While it's a distribution pattern, I've seen when these fail, they make very nice moves.
Yep.
So I would set an alert above the high of this red bar right here and below the low of that bottoming tail bar.
Perfect.
Wait to see which one breaks.
We're pot agnostic.
What does that mean, Dan?
We will buy or sell. We are unbiased.
There you go. And you know what? While I'm talking, I'm going to do it. Because I don't want to forget about it. In the moment here.
And Clarence is asking about Square, not a pot stock, but let's get through our list here first. Clarence, we'll look at that.
Okay. And we have.
And Greg, as we're going through here, also feel free to point out areas that jump out at you that say, wow, this would have been a great, option or stock trade.
I like this one. When I look at a sector, I kind of like to see some similarity between the stocks within it. And this sector really doesn't have that. So I don't know the details of these individual companies, but this is of interest to me because it's got this bottoming tail within an uptrend, and the weekly, while not, it's got this resistance here. I like the wide range bar and the consolidation at the top of it. So if it can get through this area right here.
Right, because I like the weekly. Greg, Randy is saying your photo is over the area of the chart you're discussing. It's not for me. Is it for anybody else viewing this?
And it is, Dan. I don't know if I can move it. I see it in YouTube. I don't know if that helps to move it or not. I dragged it on my screen. I don't know if that does anything. Could just be with the way
But also, as you all see how we're looking at multiple time frames here.
Yeah.
So
you were able to move it yourself.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, we like the weekly, and if it can, as Greg showed you, take out that red bar, then it looks like it's ready to go. So
yeah.
We have one.
You know what? Look, that's based on right now.
Correct.
What if tomorrow it dipped down and there was another bottoming tail bar? Then I would change my entry point, but we got to see what actually happens.
All right. So you all are seeing how we analyze and find opportunity, how we set alerts, how we get ready for them to trigger. CGC, so this is another big liquid one.
Yeah, so I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah,
it's sideways.
Exactly.
I mean, it dipped down, it came back up, it could roll back over again.
Right.
So I would just stand aside myself on this, but this is the one we were looking at for a bear call spread, which if you had that, it's still fine.
We're actually still in that position.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
Right. So time decay is our friend. That's why we sell options. We make money as the option value decays day by day.
Yeah. This is the one that rolled over that day. Well, we got from the gap list to short it, and I'm not so sure what it's going to do, but the trend is down, so I would assume it's going to go down. The weekly trend is up. But you got those topping tails, so this could be viable on a further pullback, actually, down into this area.
Right, 16.
Yeah. And whoa, look at that one.
Absolutely. That is strength right there. That's going right in my list.
Curaleaf.
Let's see, I didn't have an alarm set, but that's a beautiful weekly 1, 2, 3 continuation. This one's to all-time highs. So do you see just the few stocks we've looked at? Incredible relative strength over the others. I don't know what this one does different. I don't care, but that's a buy on a pullback.
Yeah. CVE. Maybe a breakout. So,
Wait, Greg, that says energy. You might have had a typo.
I don't know if it was in the list.
Right, maybe that's what I'm saying, maybe a typo. Let me see if there's anything similar to CVE on here.
There's one you had TOR. I couldn't find a TOR, TORC.
No, it is CVE, so I don't know. I'll have to look it up later.
Yeah. Maybe they sell the matches to light the marijuana.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't look like oil and gas integrated. That doesn't
This
look
looks like one that isn't going to make it.
Right, that one looks dead. That's a bearish consolidation on the weekly. Every attempted rally is getting slammed. And keep in mind, folks, that there's a number of these companies, like even STZ and this one, obviously, DTEA, and even Coca-Cola is talking about getting into the cannabis beverage business. Yeah. So, you know, you can.
What was Muriel Siebert brokerage firm have to do with cannabis? I took that out of the list. That seemed like it was a momentary wonder. I think it was SIEB. Yeah, I think that was one of those momentary wonders where you're right. And that caused that blast off on that weekly. I remember that. She's still alive, but probably some cannabis would do her well. Anyway, a few others here.
That one back up. Yeah, that one looks great.
Yeah, this one looks good.
GTBIF. There you go.
Nice. Look at the weekly.
And there you go, folks. That is a beautiful breakout on the weekly chart. The next little daily pullback, we're gonna put on a bull trade.
Yeah. So look, you can buy pullback patterns. There's breakout patterns. There's continuation patterns. There's different ways to get on board. And you need to understand the tools and multiple time frames to be able to do that, because they don't always pull back. They don't always just break out. So you need to understand the different ways it can happen.
Yeah, the patterns work on any chart you pull up. The patterns are the same. And then you have to just put your multiple time frames in alignment for whatever time frame you're trading. So a quick little rule of thumb, if you're trading like the daily chart, then make sure the weekly is in alignment of that bias, and then you can drop down 1 or 2 to perfect your entry. If you're trading the 15-minute chart, make sure you don't trade against the hourly, and you can drop down to the 5 and 2-minute chart for your entry. Yeah, STZ is in the list because they're a big US company that's getting into it. Plus, STZ is actually getting into it 2 ways. Number one, they're going to start doing some of the beverage cannabis stuff themselves. But number 2, I forget which other stock it is. It was listed in Barron's a while back, but they own a big portion of one of these other companies, like 25% of it. So that's another way. If we get a compelling pattern on STZ, absolutely.
This one I set an alert up near the highs, Dan, because it's in an uptrend. If it breaks down, I'm really not interested. But if it starts going up, I would be.
All right, cool.
Well, there's one that made a giant move, and well, that was its small move. Look at this one.
Right.
This went from 50-something odd cents to $14 in a few weeks.
It was crazy news. I forget what it was too.
But it's setting up possibly to move. This is a bearish candle right there. It gapped up, but it's not going down.
And look at the weeklies. The weekly, looks to me like another one of those, set a high alert, because if it can negate that red bar, the weekly says this thing might go $4 to $6. Who knows?
I got the alert set. Kodak, I don't know what that has to do with marijuana.
It was one of those stupid rumor things that caused that pop. You see it in January last year. It was another, and you said it in the introduction, Greg, perfectly. Like in the internet days, we had tow truck companies saying, I'm opening a website and getting on the internet, and their stock doubled.
Yeah.
Just opening a web page. And so that's what was happening at the beginning. Kodak said, "Oh, I'm going to start," and it happened more in the Bitcoin area. So I think Kodak should not be in your cannabis sector. It was more a pop on Bitcoin, and the same with Seabird actually. Now that I remember, Greg, those were two of the silly stories where they said they were going to start mining Bitcoin. Yeah, it wasn't pot.
All right, let's see if we can get through these, Dan. We're starting to run out of time here, but trading range, you know.
Yep, no interest.
No real interest exactly. This one moved in the past and kind of just petered out here. I don't know what that one's going to do.
Another beverage. It looks like a short right here, but I don't like shorting $5 stocks, but that's a bearish pattern.
Me too. This one's going at 0.
That looks horrible. Yep.
You know, this one could be interesting. So daily, that's given it back and broken the uptrend, but the weekly is still okay. So can it repair the damage? And this kind of pattern typically doesn't go right back up again because it came down so hard. So it needs more time. So I'm not going to do anything with alerts. I just come back to the list and just scan through the list next time. Now that looks good.
No, this one, Greg, was going to be in. Remember, I emailed you this over the weekend from Barron's, and they have earnings tomorrow, which is why it's not in the letter. But otherwise, that pattern, 100%, we would have given a bullish trades to our subscribers.
Yeah.
As our earnings tomorrow. That's a watch over last week's high, sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's holding, it gapped up. I like these patterns, regardless of what they do, that gap up and rebuild, that create the support. So let's, I'll set an alert. And
no interest.
oh, yeah, no
Breakdown failure.
Tilray doesn't know what it's doing here. I mean, I know it's grinding lower. Whether it tries to hold here, it's been kind of trying. And I'm not so sure it's going to hold or not, but this was the one that went from, you know,
yeah, that's, and we shorted the stock last week, as I think twice actually, for 2 nice swing trades.
Yeah. So, and this is the one that you had TOR, and I found TORC. I don't know if that's it, but low volume biotech stock. I don't like it.
All right.
This one, I don't know. I don't like the tails. Kind of whippy, but you know, I think there's better.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's better than this.
Yep.
That one is somewhat interesting.
Now that's a put spread candidate. It had the breakdown failure. Yep. So I'm not going to do it now, folks, because we don't have the time. So I'm writing these down. But for our subscribers, I'm going to then go through the rest of our option selling checklist. But that's a great candidate for selling a 43, you know, 20, 43, 30, $8 put spread. If there's sufficient juice, liquidity, etc. That's what I'm saying, the rest of the checklist.
Well, this one actually holding up at resistance here. I would like this tomorrow. Tell you the truth.
I wrote down car. The other one was Arnett. Got it.
I'd like to see it close below the opening price and then take this out tomorrow.
And the weekly resistance doesn't concern you?
No, because it's got several weeks of going sideways there. So it's dealing with it bullishly.
Right.
And it had the gap, and now it's created support and bottoming tail bar. I like it. This has got to pull back. We looked at this one before, I think.
Oh, it's in my list already, so it's a dupe. Yep.
Yeah, I had it over here.
Right.
So let's remove that. Now to have a double and new all-time highs.
Looks great. HRVSF. Yeah, we got a.
This is the REIT that's pulling back.
Yeah, I got climactic, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. But it could try and turn back up again. This deal can become more climactic. This was a little climactic and it pulled back and reversed. Let's see what it does. I'll set an alert at $80 and see if it gets there. And if it doesn't, no alert. This one's too messy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Messy.
This one, I'm setting alert for something that shouldn't happen. Because if it goes down, I'm not interested.
And folks, that's what Greg just said is a very valuable kernel of suggestion. I'm setting an alert on something that shouldn't happen. And that means Greg's asking himself, if it does happen, then what? Then the pattern turned bullish. So let's see what happens because today's an ugly engulfing bar after a bullish breakout. Well, what is the pattern going to look like if it now trades is over? It's negating that red bar.
Right. And because it's consolidating here, we got big red bar being ignored and it's holding this level. And this broke out above the highs. If that could become a red bar ignored, this thing could be popping to $7 or higher. So,
I didn't have that one on my list.
Yeah. And this one we looked at.
We looked at PYX. Yep.
Yeah.
That's a dupe.
Move it from here. And this one, we missed the boat. The moment. This was a great setup right there, Dan. Now, why did you miss that?
You know the answer. I'm looking at too many things.
But yeah, look at that pullback, bottoming tail bar. Nice setup, red bar ignored.
Yeah, well, show them again. Your cursor wasn't there, but I see it, but I want them to see it. The 1, 2, 3, not a 1, 2, 3, but just point to it. I don't see your pointer.
So there's the bottoming tail bar.
Right.
This could have been a 1, 2, 3, but it didn't trigger.
Right.
And that was the red bar ignored.
Perfect. Right there. Exactly.
So look, there are lots of different patterns, everybody. You could hear Dan rattling and I rattling off different patterns, but once you learn the foundational stuff and you understand the concept of bar by bar, it doesn't matter what the names are. You just see it and you know what it means. And that's why it's so much more powerful to look at things that way than to get caught up in haramis and dark cloud covers and morning stars and all of that stuff. And, you don't see any oscillators or Chikumi clouds on here or any of that, hocus pocus, holy grail information.
Right.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Right.
Light bulb begins to go on, and it gets easier to do this with, basic fundamental information by putting together concepts that make sense. Right. It's another wrap, Dan.
All right. All right, fantastic. And whatever other questions, just email me, folks. I know you asked Clarence about PM, Square, CBE. Just email me. And Greg, I'm noticing oil breaking down right now on my sector charts.
Want to learn stock market tips?
But thanks for coming, folks. See you next week.
Weekly analysis or lesson sent right to your inbox. We're live every week, and you can subscribe to the channel and press the bell to get alerts. If you've enjoyed the event, please give us a thumbs up. Just visit mastertrader.com. That's mastertrader.com.